extremely strong skills with FileMaker Server. How do you get these fundamentals? Well, one way is to do what you've done this week, go to boot camp. Another way would be to take the FileMaker training series, either through an authorized trainer or to buy it and do a self-study. One of the things that I'm sure John and the others have been driving home this week is knowing more than one approach to the same problem. John Mark Osborne kind of really is the one who I think first started vocalizing this point in our community through his training, saying, look, there may be 5 different ways to implement a certain technique. Do you know what the 5 are, and do you know the advantages and disadvantages? And that's just all about just knowing the core product. FileMaker performance. What's faster? And typically in an enterprise setting for me, it's what's faster on a network. And this is by no means an exhaustive list. It's just some ideas. And index native fields. Anytime I'm doing anything, I want to make sure my fields that I'm doing searches on are indexed. Reports are going to go faster if I'm doing them on native fields. And the next 2 bullets kind of fit under that almost. Scripted totals versus non-calc fields, right? Using script triggers to actually execute a script to calculate a total and store that in a native number field rather than using a calculation. Denormalize for performance. We've got an example that we've shown several times where we actually denormalize data. Think about a parent or parent-child, grandchild scenario. We actually, took data from the parent, moved it down to the grandparent, just so we could do summary reports on one table without having related data, and it increased performance from like 3.5 minutes to 30 seconds. Using form view instead of table view. If you're executing a script that's going over a lot of records, obviously form view is going to be a lot faster. Using small found sets. Sometimes we just take for granted in our scripting, we don't think, do I need to do this in chunks? Or what's the performance of, sending 5,000 records down the wire versus 15? Those kind of things. What are some other things that you can think of that fall under this category of what's faster on a network?
Do we still have concerns at this point about multi-predicate joins and numbers of tables away causing latency, or has that been resolved?
I think that's been resolved.
Okay.
John, I think I heard you say something about multi-predicate joins.
Yeah, and trying to view related data several tables away. I know back in 7 there was latency issues, but John Sindler just piped in and says he thinks that that's pretty much been resolved. Can you confirm that, more or less? Kirk?
Can I confirm that? I do think that, I'm going to generalize this a little bit. I do think the complicatedness of the graph affects performance, whether it's the number of predicates or the number of buoys off of an anchor or how many deep you go. And so I think simplifying the graph, whether it's dealing with predicates or reducing the number of buoys or, not going as deep, I think all of that affects it, especially in a network situation. I mean, obviously, if you're doing a simple equal join versus maybe an equal join with a greater than and something else, that's just less work that FileMaker has to do.
Lee has something to say.
Yeah, well, I was just going to extend what you said about the relationship graph, complexity of that. I'd extend that to layouts and not putting more fields than you need on layouts, and be careful with portals where you place those, especially if you're deploying in a IWP situation.
How about complex related graphics, images on layout? Does it help to reduce those?
Absolutely.
Yeah. There were some slides from the DevCon last year from the Under the Hood session about how FileMaker manages the cache and when graphics get streamed and stuff. That might be another resource for this kind of thing. I find this slide's very helpful. It talks about how many records ahead FileMaker fetches on form view versus on portals and list view. That's good stuff.
Yeah, those under the hood sessions at DevCon have a lot of value in them. Somebody else was starting to say something.
No, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, those under the hood sessions at DevCon as well as other sessions. You know, I'm thinking, for instance, you know, Matt Navarre's session about searching, right? There's going to be some good information coming out of that. As you can see on the slide here, Jason Young actually has already done a session at a couple of events. Don, I think your screensaver kicked in.
No, everybody's just taking a walk in the woods right now. That's all.
That's nice.
Yeah, we're looking at. Do you see this?
This is gorgeous.
Well, that's what we imagine Dallas looks like this time of year.
Oh, I wish.
They got love bugs out there, though, don't you? There you go.
So, one other.
Oh, we got me off track.
Kirk, one other. I'll get us back on track. Here we go. One
All
other
right,
on
so Jason's done this session on what's faster. He did it at Pause on Air in Portland, and he's doing some very structured testing on different things like what's faster, looping through records or looping through rows and portal, or what's faster, looping through records versus replace, and other things. He's really coming up with some amazing knowledge, and Pause on Air was kind of a preview of it. He's going to be working on that all the way up to DevCon this year. But you can actually download his slides from the Pause on Air site. But he's doing a lot of work in that area.
Kirk?
One of the things yes.
But since you brought up downloading slides, a number of people have been asking me, are we going to get a copy of this presentation? What do you think?
Yep, I'll make these available to anybody, and I'll just post them to the Basecamp site.
Thank you.
One of the things we found in trying to help troubleshoot performance is using logging, internal logging, where you actually write your own internal logging mechanism for scripts and processes. And we've got and I know other developers have this, it's not a unique idea by any means, but we have this routine where we just pass it parameters and it writes a log on whatever we pass it. So we use that to track how long finds are taking, how long sorts are taking, other things. If there's an area where we think we're having some issues, we'll go in and put in subscript calls to make entries in that log, and it really has been helpful for us for kind of digging in and identifying what's going on at a level that you just don't get anywhere else.
Do you have Kirk? Do you have some kind of benchmarking procedure that you'll plug into a system and then remove it periodically for performance tests?
No, not a set of benchmarks where we can compare performance of one client to another. This is simply a tool that we use as we are troubleshooting systems, and so it's something that's standard across systems for us, but it's just a log of information, and we turn it on, turn it off in different situations. But one of the things I think Jason may be working on is trying to create a set of benchmarks. That would be helpful in our industry, and I don't know that it exists right now in any way. I think probably the work Jason's doing and also Matt Navarre's doing with searching are probably the closest thing to it.
one more. Let me throw one more out, Kirk, on performance. Architecture, actually, and I'm talking specifically about file references and the order in which you specify them, especially in enterprise. You have backups. If a salesman goes on the road, you want to go to a backup file, etc. And putting those in the wrong order will lengthen your time to get access.
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, I've got sometimes when you're talking about this kind of topic, something like file architecture actually fits under different categories, and so I actually have a little bit more on file architecture a little bit later. But yeah, it definitely affects performance. definitely affects performance.